So we're here with Gary Rozmus, Vice President with Redevelopment Specialist, Gannet, Fleming in Woodbury, New York.
That's my home office, yes.
In 2009, Gary was named first chairman of the Board of Directors for the New York City Brownfield Partnership and has served as a judge for the last two Brownfield Renewal Awards. Thank you very much for participating in that.
My pleasure.
Plan New York City was unveiled almost exactly 4 years ago this month, April. Obviously, it's a huge undertaking, especially in brownfields. What do you see as the biggest improvements that have been made, either in site remediation or redevelopment in New York to date?
Well, I think the biggest thing is the development of the New York City's Brownfields cleanup program. It's the first municipal program of its type in the country, and they developed that program to implement one of the planks, the Brownfield planks of PlaNYC. And in fact, as I understand it, this has been the only plank that's been completed, and they're coming out with a renewal of PlaNYC now with the next agenda for the Brownfields cleanup program.
Okay. And do you know what that will be? Or
Not yet. I haven't seen that yet.
okay. So has it made it easier for you as private developers to do your work in New York City, or?
Well, yes, in particular in New York City, because with the state program, the Brownfields cleanup program, there was essentially a hole created because with the tax incentives or the money that was given out in incentives eliminated a number of programs or sites where the sites were not that contaminated.
Okay.
So the state program then would not let them in, and so you had a lot of these sites which are like what you see in New York City, which had nowhere to go. So the city program now is taking all of these sites in, and they have an agreement in place with the state so that they can provide some amount of liability write-off, the same as the state. And they're also very clear on not stepping on, so to speak, into the DEC's boundary, the New York State DEC's boundaries.
Right.
So it operates well, and it's intended to very quickly push these sites through. So in a matter of months, rather than years, you can take these sites with low levels of contamination, which are what you see in a lot of urban areas, and move them through to redevelopment. So need for speed is satisfied in that regard.
Oh, okay. So, but then other than the liability aspect of it, is New York City sort of working independently of the state?
Well, they work independently, but they work in concert with. So in fact, what they have agreements in place for is that if there is coordination that has to be done. So for example, if a site has an open spill number, and that's on the state's list, and you're able to work the site through the city program because it's not a major spill, the city then will work on your behalf to coordinate with the state to close out that number, that spill number as well. And then also what the city is doing, it acts as a permit ombudsman for the applicant, so that within the city agencies there's always a large number of permits that one has to get in order to simply do remediation or development. So they then act as the permit ombudsman to help you to connect with the right city agencies, and again get the approvals that you need on a quick basis to be able to move forward and get to redevelopment.
Okay. Because I know, like in Chicago, one of the things that they're doing there is if you're meeting certain standards, I think some of it's LEED standards and certain green standards that they had created, they would actually push permits through quicker for you if you were trying to do. Is New York?
Well, they have an element of that.
Okay.
In fact, where they're going to give you an award, so to speak, that certifies that you have, done things that are sustainable. Now, if you're meeting LEED standards, that's one thing, but they'll even recognize you if indeed you just simply incorporate sustainable elements into your projects.
Okay.
And it's like getting a plaque that you can put on the cornerstone of the building, so to speak. So again, it's you get that public awareness that you've achieved, something that's sustainable.
Okay. In one of the initial magazine articles on the plan when it came out in 2007, the author noted that potential city brownfields would cover an area 8 times the size of Central Park. In a sort of landlocked city like New York, what are the best uses for the land right now? What is the current focus of redevelopment?
It's whatever they can accomplish. It's not just simply, let's say, open space.
Yeah.
But it doesn't eliminate open space to redevelopment. It is focused on first trying to get the vacant parcels, the blighted parcels, back into play and get them redeveloped in a way that sits well within the neighborhood, the community in which they grow, or they are, so that, for example, we're working right now what's called the Newtown Creek BOA area, Brownsfield's Opportunity Area, which is an area that had gotten a New York State Department of State grant.
Okay.
And the city is working along with all of it. I think there's about a dozen or 10 BOA grants within the city, and they're working to help the BOA grant people to achieve redevelopment. So in particular, Newtown Creek has a heavy industrial history, and the emphasis there is to further redevelop, revitalize the industrial base, which is one of the few areas within New York City where there's still industry going on.
Okay.
So that's focused on taking those Brownfields and the areas around them and redeveloping them as industrial properties. Other ones could be mixed use, other ones could be residential, and that's the whole gamut of low income to high income. And then, of course, there's open space considerations and parks and things like that.
What are incentives for companies, you know, especially where you're building industrial complexes? What's the incentive for them to come in?
Well, it has to be on a market-based feasibility basis, and that's an element that's included in the BOA program, and obviously is an important element of what the city's program does as well. So it's just not build it and they will come.
Yeah.
But it is to figure out what could thrive, what could be a catalyst for an area, based upon needs. You know, some of it is, you know, you always look first at things like, are there green jobs available? Well, some of what's working in the Newtown Creek areas where they'll have a large building where they'll end up setting up small specialty type of contractors and businesses producing things that the city needs. The city always needs everything from food to light bulbs and
right.
You name it. So if you could make a light bulb there effectively and cost effectively and then be able to deliver it right to your customers, you can obviously see the benefits to that. So, but obviously it's a mix of economics and things like that have to come into play.
Now, are there any commitments to the communities saying, you know, well, if we bring these in, you know, I think it's in Minneapolis where they say, okay, you know, they'll give them companies tax incentives to come in under the assumption that they will hire so many people from the community, like a certain percentage based on square footage, I think, of the building or
right.
the property they were in.
Well, there are components that deal with job benefits, and in particular, even back to the state's program where they have tax incentives. Mm-hmm. And if you can achieve certain marks with jobs, you get more tax incentives.
Oh, okay.
And the city is certainly looking to work off of that as well. So they have, in fact, some of the components of the city's Brownfields program and also the Brownfields partnership that I'm on the board of. Part of what our mission is to look for opportunities where you can foster job development. So
right.
The economic development goes hand in hand with job creation too.
Now, is BOA, is that more like environmental justice? Is that part of what they're doing, or?
Well, it certainly covers that, in that you see the areas that get these grants certainly have environmental justice components to them. Mm-hmm. But then again, you often see brownfield sites in particular in like the New York City or urban areas where it is tied into environmental justice,
right.
Because just simply where the both issues have come together, but not necessarily just focusing on that though.
Okay. So obviously between the New York State BOA program and the Brownfield cleanup in New York City, it seems like New York has really kind of created a comprehensive brownfield attack plan, as it were.
Yeah. Well, I think of it as a more. It is a brownfield attack plan, but it is, my opinion is that you wouldn't have brownfields so actively pursued if it wasn't for the economic development component of it.
Okay.
So, by dealing with the brownfields in the context of economic redevelopment, you obviously go towards that need to economically redevelop areas, like areas in the city, to also try to match up what the city needs in terms of their projected growth, because there's a large projection of growth for various services and jobs and things like that, particularly tied to the Port of New York projections for port traffic going through there.
Okay.
So there's a need in particular for a city like New York to be able to redevelop and make use of property, because they ain't making property like they used to anymore, as we would say. But, so it's vital to make the best of every square foot of property that's available, and in the process try to do it in a way that will be cost effective and achieve their sustainability goals as well.